Hi there, everybody. I'm just going to let people jump on and we'll get started in just a few seconds. Please say hello in the chat. Let me know how you're doing. How does this feel so far? We've only really just getting started. Has anything you've learned so far been a breakthrough or an aha moment? Has anything changed in your thinking? Do you have any questions? Please put them in the chat and change the little drop down thing so it says everybody. Otherwise, only I can see your answers. So make sure you change it to everyone, which you have done. Well done. Mary, we don't beat ourselves up. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. We get sober by putting weight on the sober end. And it is the most common thing in the world is that it takes several attempts. So every time, Mary, you are learning something. So you have a lot of data and feedback. So I want to ask yourself, what did you learn? If you're back to day one, what did you learn? And what do you need to do differently this time? That's really important. Oh, good, Michelle. Michelle was looking at the strengths and challenges. Yeah, and we just want to look at where we can increase one and reduce one, just a little bit, tiny little movement. Oh, Gina, what was your breakthrough that you had? Nobody fails here. I want to be very clear. Nobody is failing here. There is only feedback and gathering of data. The fact that you are showing up for yourself is all putting weight on the sober end. That's okay, Robert. If you're having trouble getting started, just keep showing up and doing the stuff that I'm teaching you, and eventually that weight will shift. If we can get 2 or 3 days sober, then 3 or 4 days, then 5 or 6 days, that's how we get there. Good to see you, Jenny. Oh, hi, Liv. Welcome. I'm glad. Hi, Joe. Elizabeth, I'm not sure what your question is. I'm not something navigating this correct in terms of when the announcement. The link should be the same link every week for the webinars. And the first Q&A session is going to be, I think it's on Tuesday the 15th. Yeah, Tuesday the 15th, and that's 7 p.m. New York time, the first Q&A. That will be quite late for the UK, but the next one will be, we alternate the times, so the times work in different time zones. Oh, well done, Ellen is practicing on what changes she can make in the challenges department. Yeah, Judy, I want to tell you the social anxiety is extremely common. I don't think that I've met many people that have had an alcohol problem that haven't had social anxiety. My story was my drinking really escalated because of panic attacks. So it's really, 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 really common. And lots of people use alcohol because of that. So my best advice is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, is a fantastic tool to bring the anxiety down. And don't put yourself in situations early on that you know are going to make you anxious. Focus on being sober and do whatever you need to do right now to make that happen. The anxiety will go away. Eventually it will decrease. And I know it's hard at the beginning. I've been there, and I wish I knew EFT back then to help with that. Yeah, if you're 40 days sober and it's because it feels like it's getting harder, Maureen, it's because you're ready to do some deeper work, which is what we're actually going to be doing here. The 5 pillars. We're just going to focus on the 5 pillars: movement, connection, balance, those 3 to begin with. Yeah, the Q&A will be recorded. Everything will be recorded. I'm right now planning on doing the Q&A as a live stream within the private group that we have. We're noticing a few glitches with the live stream. So the first one may be a bit of an experiment, and if it doesn't work, I'll do it as a webinar. It's more the tech on the platform's end, not my end. But you can submit, there'll be a post tomorrow, I think. If you have questions, put your questions in the post and then I'll answer them on the live stream. And if you show up live, I can answer them there as well. EFT is emotional freedom technique. For those of you who signed up early, you get, there is an EFT. I'm doing an EFT workshops in May that you get as part of the bonus for jumping in early. But I can tell you more about those later. Yeah, EFT is miraculous with anxiety. And it's a self-help tool and you can use it straight away. Okay, so today we are going to be, this week and next week, talking about the pillar of movement. And I have an exercise for you, so you're going to need a pen and paper. So go and get a pen and paper. Cheryl, I'm struggling to decide to be sober. The wine witch is trying to convince me that I don't really need to be sober forever. So here's things to think about. First of all, no one shows up in front of me by accident. So nobody's ever showed up in front of me whose drinking was fun. So I'm just going to assume that if you're here, your drinking is creating a lot of problems and it's not fun and you have consequences that you don't like. The reason that the wine witch tells us that we don't need to be sober forever is because of a faulty belief system that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relax, and to reward yourself. And we believe if we don't have alcohol, we can't get those things. That is not true. We can get all of those things sober. We just have to cross the bridge, and you are all crossing the bridge. So that's the reason those thoughts are there. You can always go back to drinking if you are prepared to pay the cost. The cost will only ever increase. So we're going to talk about the pillar of movement. So I always say the pillars don't really go in order. It's not like you do step 1 and then step 2, like with the 12 steps. But the pillar of movement is a good way to start out. And we're going to be talking about exercise next week and how important that is for our brains and all of that kind of stuff. What I want to talk about this week is what we are moving towards and what we are moving away from. And we're going to talk a little bit about that next week as well. But I want to talk, the pillar of movement works 2 ways. Number 1 is we need to exercise our bodies. We all know we have to do that for physical health, but we have to do it for mental health as well. It has such a massive impact on our mental health. So the other thing is about the pillar of movement. We need to be conscious about what we want to move towards and what we want to move away from. So when I was drinking, I had lost myself. I was very, very lost. I just felt like I existed. Like I knew I wanted to party this weekend, but I didn't really have a plan. And I was in my 20s, and it's kind of normal for lots of people in their 20s to not have a real plan of what they want to do with their life. But I was drifting like a little boat on the ocean. I had no rudder. Whatever way the wind blew me is the way that I went. I was not living purposefully. I didn't know, I just didn't know myself, and I had really lost a connection with myself. Does that make sense to everybody? Who feels that they have lost themselves a little bit? It's very painful when we lose ourselves. And the reason we drink is because of emotional pain. Yeah. Okay, good. I just, good as in I'm glad that this is resonating, not good that you've lost yourself. And sobriety is about returning to ourselves. That's really what it is. It's we have disconnected from who we really are. And sobriety is about connecting with who we really are. So we are going to do an exercise today on our values. We are going to rediscover who we really are and what really matters to us. So in a second, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you a list of values. So values are the things that really resonate with us. So, you know, for me, integrity really resonated with me, like saying what I meant and being honest. But when I was in, and it's not just when I was drunk, but when I was in that period of my life when alcohol dominated my life, I was not a person of integrity. I lied, I stole, I manipulated people. And I did those things to try and get my needs met. But it caused me great pain to be out of integrity in that way. And of course, that made me feel uncomfortable in my own skin, and alcohol was the answer to that. So what we want to do today is we want to rediscover who we really are. And we do that by discovering our values. Values guide our behavior and our personal conduct, and they are embedded in us. They are our guidance system. Lots of us pick up values from other people, and lots of us discover them along the way. Our values really guide us, that they really are like a compass. And when we are dominated by alcohol, we lose connection to our values, which means we lose connection to who we really are. When we are incongruent with our values, which is out of alignment with them, we are more likely to regress into unhelpful habits. And that's when we start just doing all these outside things to numb the pain of being us. Make sense so far? When we know our personal values, it changes our behavior and how we make decisions. Being very conscious of them helps us cut through the noise to what really matters. So we are going to discover our core values and how we can start moving towards them. It's easy to speculate or idolize values. It's a different matter to live by them. So what I'm going to do with you, I have a list of over 200 core values. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see them. And I want you to write down every single one that resonates with you. So write down, don't censor yourself, just write down as many as you want. This isn't a exhaustive list. There's certainly more values. So if you have ones that are not on there, put them down. So let me share my screen. Can everybody see what happens is then I can't see. Ooh, hold on one second. What happens is then I can't see the comments and I don't know what's going on. So I just want to make sure that I can see what your share screen. I think it's. Can everybody see that? Ah, yes, now I can see the chat. Can everybody see my screen and see this list of, you can, okay, great. I have two screens and technology always. So I want you to take a few minutes and I want you to just write down every single one that resonates with you. Now, these can be aspirational, and a lot of the time they will be. So it might be, you know, integrity, that's a core value for me. I wasn't living it back in the day. I was not a person of integrity, but it really called to me. So that's what we're looking for. It's not necessarily ones that you feel that you're embodying or living right at this moment, but it's who you want to be. It's that really, really matters, whatever it is. Now there's 2 pages here. So I'm going to stay on this page first, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to write down all of the values that just stand out for you. So take a few minutes and do that. Don't censor yourself. Write down as many as you want. And there's more on the second page, which I'll go over to the second page, and don't worry if you haven't had time to go through all of these. I'll come back to this. And this is some further ones there. Again, write down as many as you just feel resonate with you, you aspire to. And I'll give you just a couple more minutes, and then what we're going to do is narrow these down. There's a second part to the exercise. Has everyone got a bunch of values written down? Just let me know in the chat, because yeah, okay. I want to give you enough time. I don't want to. Okay. Okay. So what we are going to do next is I want you to look at all of and put the number in. Just give them a quick count. Put the number in of how many you wrote down. By the way, there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever number you've written down is absolutely fine. So what we're going to do next is we are going to group these values into families. So for example, abundance, wealth, growth, they may all be in part of the same family. Things like fun, joy, happiness, those are all similar values and they belong in the same family. So I want you to create about 5 or 6 families from all of the ones that you've written down. So look at ones that are similar, that could all be in the same group, and then put them in a little group. Does that make sense to everybody? So caring, kindness, those are similar things. You want to put them in the same family. Let me see what else there is. Yeah, caring, kindness, love, those are all similar things. Grace, I think those could all be in the same family. So what I want you to do is end up with a minimum of 4, no more than, 6 groups of similar values. Am I making sense to everybody? So put those in groups. And then let me know when that's done. I'll come to questions at the end of the exercise, because then I might just answer it as we go along. Yeah, the exercise is in the book. And what's really interesting about doing this exercise is it will change as we go along, because what you may value in your 20s, maybe success and ambition are a value, which is perfectly fine, but maybe in your 60s, connection and relaxation is a more important value. So when you do this exercise, you may have different results every time. So once you have, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Okay, once you have got your families, pick one value from each family, and that should get you down to about 5 core values. And they can be, you can have 4 or you can have 6 as the most. And then when you've got your list, 5 is a good number, put those in the chat so we can, and put them all together, put the list all together. Don't press enter until you put all of them together. And then we can see what your values are. And I'll put mine in there so you can see what mine are. Those are mine. So we're putting what we don't, we want to have different things. So that the group part is we're just kind of looking at the ones we've got written down, and we're putting ones that are similar into a group. And then when we've got 4 or 5 groups, we're taking one from each group. So Janice, grounded, connection, authenticity, integrity, kindness, and growth. So Janice, I would say authenticity, integrity are pretty much similar thing. So choose one of those. I would also say, to be honest, connection, I agree, authenticity is one of my core values, but for me that comes under connection. When I'm fully connected with myself, I'm authentic. So you could actually, I even think grounded, connection, authenticity, integrity are actually a family, and you could pick one of them. And then you would have 3 and you could add 2 more to it. See what I mean? Gina's got connectedness, joy, love, integrity. Mary's got balance, empathy, resilience, freedom, proactive, loyalty. So I'm just going through some of these because this is what commonly happens, is we sort of still have a few that are the same, and we can kind of take them out and then put some other ones in. So Janice, do that and put them back in. Mary, I think you're good there. Balance, empathy, resilience. I feel like proactive, resilience, and freedom. I feel like proactive and freedom are similar things. So you could maybe just choose one of them. Robert, love, well-being, security, humility. I feel like well-being and security could be similar as well. You might want to get rid of them and add 1 or 2 more in. Abundance, joy, balance, spirituality. I find this really interesting when people do this, because it's a reflection of us. There's no right or wrong answer. And like I said, depending on where you are in your life, they will change. Playfulness. I love that. It's really interesting, isn't it? So Ursula, success, growth, well-being, peace of mind. Well-being and peace of mind are the same thing. So you could swap one of those out. Helen, optimism, warmth, family, adventure. Interesting. How did it feel doing this exercise? So this is perhaps where we recognize this really matters to me, and I'm not living this. And we're not going to beat ourselves up about it. We are revealing ourselves to ourselves. It's really important that we recognize that is who I am. And I am not living that right now, but I want to move towards it. We reframe this as something positive. We are uncovering something really important here. Cheerfulness. So Karen, wisdom, abundance, cheerfulness, kindness, connection. I feel like cheerfulness and kindness could be similar-ish. I might be wrong. If you feel like, nope, I want to keep them, that's fine. Yeah, lots of similar things because these things are really important. Karen, inspiration, teamwork, joy, creativity, passion, humor, success. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. And I would say joy and humor can be of the same family. Passion and success could be of the same family as well. So if you wanted to kind of cut those down, you could. What I want everyone to do is put these on a post-it note or in your journal. Make sure they're written down. This is who I am. This is what I'm moving towards. There's a lot of Marys here. Oh, yeah, I didn't want to read out the last name. And Tracy, balance, love, empathy, accountability, diversity. I feel like empathy and love could be similar. Alicia, am I saying that wrong, Alicia? Intelligence, decisiveness, curiosity, grace. Really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's worth doing this several times. So the process of sobriety is revealing ourselves to ourselves. And when we do this, we sometimes uncover some uncomfortable truths, but it needs to be done. The process of getting sober and growing is always going to be a little bit uncomfortable. We are going to forgive ourselves for not living our values because we have been very unwell. You know, just last night, I've had some dental work and it's really bothering me. I'm in some discomfort and I have to take some painkillers. And last night, it really was bothering me. You know, when you're in so much pain, you just can't. I'm just like, don't talk to me, I can't. And I was quite snappy at my husband. Now, that's not me. You know, we're not a family that shouts or snaps at each other most of the time. So it's not that I wasn't living my values there because I was in pain. I just couldn't. I just snapped at him and I probably snapped at my kids as well. So it's the same with our drinking problem. We are in emotional pain. So it's very hard for us to live our values. So we want to uncover who we really are so we can move towards this. So I don't want anyone to beat themselves up that they haven't been doing this. From today, we can, and again, we're not tomorrow going to wake up and be perfectly aligned with our values. Movement is about moving towards them. Yeah, Lindsay, what is meaningful jumps out from the list. You know, a couple of people have put playfulness down, and that really interests me. That's not hitting me, but I might do this in 15 years, and that might be one that really hits me. Playfulness, that's such a lovely value. Creativity. Who here is a creative person or yearns to be creative in whatever way and is not doing that, whatever it is? Who here is creative and that is calling them? This is very linked to the pillar of growth, and we'll talk about that when we get to that, what is calling us to grow. But often what I find when we do this is creativity is a value, and when we are burning up bandwidth with drinking, we can't live that value because we don't have the bandwidth. It's in the book, and you'll also get you'll get the handout as well. So it is in the book under the pillar of connection, and it's also you'll get a handout as well. Yeah, lots of people. Yearns used to be. I always have that when we have these. I honestly think it's actually a moot point. I feel like everybody's creative. We all, you know, it can be you have a call to be an artist or a writer or a musician or a singer or whatever. But there's so many other ways to be creative in gardening, in nature, in how you parent. So I feel like everybody's creative, and and this also links to the pillar of balance. It's a need. It's a need for me. How I create, I love color and I love patterns, and I have a lot of limiting beliefs about art, but I love to kind of color in and make colors. And I sometimes do that a little bit with my kids. It's not something I really have a lot of time for. I like being creative in my work. This is a paradox for me. I'm dyslexic, and writing is really hard for me. It's really, really hard. So writing a book was really hard for me, but I had these things I wanted to say in the way that I feel I could say them. And I would say these things, and I would get this response from people who would affirm that, wow, you really kind of say things in a way that helped me understand them. So you know, creating this book, it was really hard for me, but I had to do it because I was being called within to do it. So if you are, whatever the creation is, what is one thing you'd like to do right now? Karen, that's a really interesting question. How do I combine professionalism with spirituality? They seem contradictory to me. I have many skills and training, but I don't feel worthy. Professionalism is a spiritual trait. To be professional is to be appropriate in certain environments, and that is also very spiritual because it's about being in alignment with who you really are. Oh, Mary L. This is a really good one. I'm afraid I won't be able to be creative in my painting anymore without drinking. So my best friend Sarah, who she sings and wrote the music for the podcast. If you listen to the podcast, that little song at the beginning is my best friend, and she runs programs for people who want to be creative. So she mostly works with singer-songwriters who want to write and perform their songs but are stuck and blocked and all those things. And she says that's such a big limiting belief that comes up all the time. She's not in recovery, she doesn't have a problem with alcohol, but obviously she knows me very well. Is that comes up all the time, that people think drinking is linked to creativity. It's not. When we drink and we are creative, we are being creative despite the drinking. It's not the drinking that's fueling it. We're managing to be creative despite the drinking, which is why you see in lots of artists, they can have alcohol and drug problems in their 20s, 30s and be creative, but then it really drops away because as you age, the alcohol and the drugs take over. And there are so many well-known people that you wouldn't be aware of that are sober who are massively creative and know that their creative power comes because they got sober. Creativity doesn't stop when you stop drinking. So I want to say that's a limiting belief. Karen, who we were in our past, Karen has said, I want to be successful and feel valued, but because I drink or have drunk too much over the years, I feel like a fraud. Who we were is not who we are. We were very unwell. And when we are unwell, like I was last night with my toothache, we don't behave well. Now that we know that there is a different way and we are learning these tools, we can create things differently going forward. You know, one of the things I've noticed, and this is quite common, I feel, with people in recovery. So when I was drinking, I quite often was hungover and would call in sick quite regularly or leave early or whatever. I was not a great employee. Anyone else done that? So when I got sober, like I said, integrity is just really important to me, like not lying, or that really grosses me out, but I did those things. So when I got sober, I could move towards my values. So I often find people in sobriety, when I was genuinely sick with whatever and I had to call in sick for work, oh my God, it was like agony for me. I mean, I would try and drag myself in because I'd feel so guilty and ashamed that I'd done it in the past, that I didn't want my current employer to even think that I would do something like that now. So I would go through the ringer, like, am I really that sick, or should I? Because I'd lied, and it just felt so dishonest in the present, even though it was for a genuine reason. It kind of takes years to almost get over that. I almost feel like it now. And I'm to be honest, no, I'm actually, I can have balance, and if I'm sick, I can cancel and reschedule and do those things without beating myself up too much. But it took a while because of that past behavior. We are not who we were in past. My experience is, and I've worked with lots of sober people, this is for Karen and everyone else, when we get sober and use these tools that we are learning together, we are really good employees. We are really good neighbors. We are really good community members. We are really good friends. We show up, we help, we're considerate. We have a ton of empathy, a ton of empathy. That has been my experience, and that's who you really are. We are rediscovering ourselves. Does that make sense? Oh, this is Liv. I like making cards, and she made 3 yesterday. Mary L wants to write a screenplay. Just write the first page. Do the first page. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. If anyone has a book or a song in them, just write the first line. Just the first line. See what happens. And for those of you who are like I don't know, I have no, like, this is about being on square one. Square one is like, I don't know, I think I could be creative, maybe, no idea how or what that is. Square one is just in the not knowing. I don't know, but I'm open. I am open to discovering what that could be. Yeah, Karen, I'm not sure what I want to do. Something creative. It feels like a mindset that is open and fun and free. I think that's a perfect description. It is that. And we can just be open to how that presents itself. Yeah, I feel inspired by everyone's creativity too. Joe, Welsh Joe, I bet you have an amazing book in you. Trust me, if I can write a book, anyone can write a book. It's not that hard. If I can do it, I'm not that smart, and I'm dyslexic. Honestly, if I can do it, you can do it. So don't tell your story that I can't, it's not good enough, I'm not good enough. Really, I'm not. I'm average. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, there's so much here that I don't. So if anyone has that burning inside of them right now to write a song, a book, or picture, what happens is we overwhelm ourselves with outcomes. We are going to let go of outcomes. Just write the first paragraph or the first sentence or the first line of the song. That's your only goal, nothing else. You're not going to finish it. You're not going to, no expectations, no whatever. Just open up the door. Maybe if you want to paint, buy some paint, whatever it is, just to open up the door. And I also want to say, all with, balance, this is about meeting our needs. And it's also about filling time and filling a purpose in our life that isn't alcohol. I'm going to just get up because I want to show you something. So when I first got sober, drinking for me was a full-time job. It probably was an extra 40 hours a week with all the getting ready to drink, drinking, and recovering from drinking. So when I stopped drinking at 27, I didn't have a family. I just felt like I had oceans of time to fill. And I was like, ugh. And I was often quite bored and just, what do I do? Fidgety at home. And one of the things I started to do was I just bought some paints and I bought some little, canvassy things. And I have no skills whatsoever. I couldn't paint a picture of a person or anything like that. But I just like patterns and color. So this is a picture. I don't think it has a date in it, but I did this in my first few months of sobriety. Don't think it's a work of genius, but I'm really fond of it. It makes me really happy. I like the swirls and I like the colors, and I love that the 27-year-old me did that. And I've always kept it and taken it with me. And I have it over there on my shelf so I can see it. Now, for me, it was literally, I needed something to do with my hands in the evening because I wasn't smoking and I wasn't drinking, and I felt very like, oh, what do I do with my hands? I found it quite soothing. It sort of gave me a purpose. Like I'm very task orientated. So if I start something, I like to finish it. So, and I did a whole bunch I threw them all away because they were terrible, but I liked this one and I kept it. So it checks a lot. It checked a lot of boxes for me in that it filled time, it occupied my hands, and it gave me pleasure. It gave me joy. So interesting how this discussion has gone on to creativity. So all of that's, you're all in that position. Take a risk, take a little jump. Go on, I dare you to start the thing. And if you don't know what the thing is, just be in the place of not knowing. And maybe, it can be anything. One of the things what I do now, I don't know if it feels very creative, but it really soothes me. I love jigsaws. It's so rock and roll, my life. Get me a good jigsaw and I'm happy for about 3 weeks. I just find it very soothing. I like to do it. I mean, I don't know if it feels creative, but it makes me happy. It's how I relax. Thank you. Looks like Van Gogh. I don't know about that, but okay, I'm bravery. So I just want to reply to what Karen said here. You're brave though, Veronica. I admire your fearlessness. I feel like I'm in a cave and need to come out. I know that there are a lot of people here in where I live in France who don't speak French, and I am a French teacher and I can teach them. I want to, but I'm scared of rejection or that I won't be good enough, even though I know that I am actually a good teacher from feedback. I'm standing on the cliff of offering this service, which I would like to offer. Karen, don't put that on me. I'm not that. Everything I've done, I've been frightened. I just did it anyway. I am not fearless. I am quite the opposite. Everything I have done, I have been really scared about. But the calling, this is why we did, going back to our values, these values are who I am. Like growth, it's really important to me. I want to see what I'm capable of, even though it scares the shit out of me. So it's not that I'm fearless, it's that I felt the fear, but I did it anyway. So Karen, and we're going to get to this further on in the program, we're going to actually talk about limiting beliefs. What you have is a limiting belief. You're saying that I'm different from you, and I'm not. I'm exactly the same. So you have a skill, and we know that you're good enough because you've had people say that was great, or they had a good experience, or whatever. All that's holding you back is your limiting beliefs. So Karen, I dare you to do it anyway. This is how we grow, and we listen to, growth was a lot of people's values there. You're being called, and if we stay in this same place, it just feels painful. Whenever we grow into something new, it will be uncomfortable and it will be frightening, but we're going to do it anyway because it will be okay. We'll make mistakes. We might mess up here and there, but you know what? We're human beings, and that's okay. So let me tell you, my first book that I wrote, called Why You Drink and How to Stop. Long story short, my husband said, you have to write a book, you have to write a book. This is like 13 years ago. You have all these great things to say, you have to write a book. So I wrote it, and a client of mine, his wife is a really top editor, like really top editor. And she said, I'll help you, send me the manuscript, I'll have a look at it. I sent it to her, no word of a lie. She crossed out and read about 40% of it. And I was fully expecting her to come back, oh, this is work of genius. Literally almost half of it was like, this is shit. And I was quite offended, but I'm so grateful that she's helped me with all my books, because I had to see things. She taught me a lot, and I saw that she was right, that this would be a better book if I actually did it like this. So my first attempt was like, it was pretty embarrassing, but we do it anyway. Oh, I love adult coloring books. I love them. Oh, Robert used to write poetry. Robert, start there. Get a pen and get a pad and spend 15 minutes a day, just whatever. See what happens. Oh yeah, love a good jig. I was in Starbucks the other day, and they have a kids shop the opposite, and they have lots of jigsaws in there, like adult ones. And I was like, oh, feel like another jigsaw puzzle coming on. Chip and I were talking about this in the podcast. Like my 25-year-old self is looking on at my almost 50-year-old self in horror. Like, really? That's what you do for fun now? Kristen, my son is dyslexic, and I always wanted to write children's books that would help dyslexic children read. Love it. All of you, it doesn't really matter what it is. There is a U-shaped hole in the world. Welsh Joe writing her book, Kristen writing her. Kristen, you're the one who needs to do this. Our lady who was wanting to teach French. Who are you not to do this? Who are you to hide your gifts from the world? How dare you? Who are you not to do this? There's a whole book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. Actually, there's a famous book, and it's by Susan Jeffers. I believe she's passed away now. And she wrote a very famous book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it's all about fear and how that works. Really worth getting that one. Anybody who has done anything, and trust me, I have worked with very successful people. I've worked with successful and famous people that you will have heard of. And every single one of them was frightened. None of them became who they were. It just happened. They were called and they were really frightened. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. And they did it. But the call was so strong, so they did it. And then the call, and then they did it. And they did. That's how anybody does anything. So I love seeing the spark here. I love seeing the inspiration. I love seeing that what you're doing, that feeling that you all have inside right now, is the rediscovery of self. I want you to post your values somewhere where you can see them. This is who I am. And I want you to ask yourself every day, how can I move towards this just a little bit? And it's actually little things. It's little tiny things. How can I move towards this? Even if it's just like, I have no idea, but I'm open to discovering. That's mindset. That's about being on the square that you're on. I have no idea how to move towards my values, Veronica. But I am open to discovering. If we just change how we say things, how we phrase them, it makes all the difference. Who feels sparked today? Who feels like something has kind of caught, a little flame has been lit? Who feels that something has been awakened? Good. Good. Okay, we'll put a post in Sober for Life. I'll put that in later, and you can tell me what it is that you're going to do. Again, there's no such thing as failure. I don't care if you write a paragraph and then the next day look at it and go, oh my God, that's embarrassing. That's not failure. It's just feedback. We're going to go out, we're just going to make messes and we're just going to make mistakes, because all of that is part of the human growth experience. And that's how we become who we are. And that's how we live our values. Yes. Karen, I'm going to offer French lessons for the terrified. I think that's a great marketing title. French lessons for the terrified. I think that's brilliant. Yes. So, well, I'll check the group later. I'll put a little post and we can kind of talk a bit more about our values and how we've been sparked. Don't worry if you've not been sparked. Don't worry if you're the one sitting there going, I don't know, I have no idea. Change your language. I am open to moving towards these values. I'm open to moving towards what I'm open to discovering who I really am. It's okay to be in a place of confusion and being lost. Wonderful session, you guys. You guys are awesome. Love all of your comments. I really this was fantastic. Check in the group later. I'll put a couple of posts later and we can carry on the conversation. I will see you next week. We are going to continue with the pillar of movement and what we're moving towards and what we're moving away from, and talking about how we move our bodies and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, awesome session. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.